Say, kids, what time is it?
It's story time!
Hey, welcome back. I got my thumbs up. So here we go. Here's on to the next one. So let's go ahead and let's get started here. Well, not delay because we're just doing short little segments here and everything. Slowly, the light faded up and the world around him came into view. He sat up and found himself sitting on a bed inside a small room. But it wasn't the bed in his room at home. It was a little red bed, only half a block tall. And the room was made entirely from stone, even the floor. He was still inside the Minecraft world. He quickly checked his inventory. Empty. Herobrine had taken everything from him. He pounded on the stone walls, but without any tools, they would take forever to break. The memory of what happened before he lost consciousness flooded him. He had been captured by Herobrine. It had to be Herobrine. The avatar's eyes had begun to glow, and he found himself powerless to resist. Was it some form of hypnosis? Is that why his eyes glowed? Herobrine had forced him to place a bed from his inventory on the ground, and then he pushed him into it. As soon as he hit the bed, the world faded away and he was unable to stay awake. Time skipped ahead and morning came in what felt like a matter of seconds. He automatically woke back up, but was the world he woke up in the same as the one he fell asleep in? He looked out the small window that had been placed at eye level. He could still see the single mountain in the distance, with the dark tower at the top. So, he had not moved from the spot where he had been placed in the bed, but instead of a barren, flat world, a village spread out before him, reaching all the way to the base of the solitary mountain. He craned his neck and could see that the village encircled the dungeon. He could only assume that it spread out across the plains on the other side. "Do you like it?" a voice said from behind him. He turned and looked into the glowing eyes of Herobrine. There were no doors in the small room, and he was sure he had not been in here when he first woke up. Herobrine smiled and looked past him out the window. It felt so good to build. He looked back at Josh. "Thank you for the tools and the crafting table. You did all that in a single night? What can I say? Besides, I had a lot of pent-up energy. So you are real." "I'm as real as you are, Josh." "Well, no, you're not. You're a computer program." "And how does that make me any less real?" "You can't think. You can't feel. You're not human." "And what does it mean to be human, Josh?" "We can think for ourselves. I have free will. You're a computer program. You can only think what you are programmed to think." Herobrine tilted his head to the side. "So you have free will and I don't. Is that our only difference?" "That's a simplistic way to put it, but yes, I can do what I want, but you can only do as you are programmed." "If that is true, then why don't you leave?" "What?" "Go ahead. Leave this room. Leave this world. Show me your free will." What a great idea. Why didn't I think of that, he thought. He imagined the game menu, but nothing happened. He thought of the chat window to talk with Andre, but couldn't bring it up either. Herobrine let out an exasperated sigh. "Well?" Josh looked at him, his heart pounding deep in his chest. I can't." Josh fell back onto the bed and placed his head in his hands. "I'm trapped here." Herobrine sat down next to him. "I know a way out." He looked up at Herobrine. "You do?" "Yes. The journey will be long and dangerous, and there are many barriers to overcome. But I think you can do it." "You do? Why?" "I have been waiting a long time for someone to play with, and finally, you are here." "What do you mean you have been waiting for someone to play with?" Herobrine smiled. "The traps you will encounter were all created by me. We are going to have a lot of fun, you and I." "You created the traps?" "Yes, but I can help you get past them if you pay attention and do exactly as I say." "Why are you helping me if you build all the traps?" Herobrine looked skyward as if he had suddenly heard something, and then vanished from the room. Andre pulled his dad into the virtual reality lab, tugging on his arm to get him to move faster. I can't shut down the system and the pod won't open. His dad half jogged behind him. Slow down, Andre. I can fix it. They stopped at the pod. Andre made exaggerated movements as he pushed on the big red emergency release button, and still nothing happened. See, the pod is broken and Josh is trapped. Dad pressed the button twice himself and then leaned over the pod to look in the window. He doesn't look too bad off in there. Let me see what I can do with the software override. He pulled the chair closer to the computer and began typing. Sparks shot up from the keyboard, making Dad jump back and cry out in surprise. The screen shifted to a chat window and text began to fill the screen. Josh is okay. We are going to play for a little while. Do not interfere. The screen shut down and the computer sparked briefly before smoke started billowing out of the case. Dad grabbed a fire extinguisher and sprayed the computer until the smoke stopped. They looked at each other. Andre was the first to speak. Did you see that? Yes, but who was that? It was Herobrine. Who? He's this character in Minecraft that's as smart as a human player. Dad frowned. You can't tell me your game did this. Not the game, Dad. Herobrine. So this Herobrine, he's some hacker that plays Minecraft? No, he's a character created by Notch in the original Minecraft, but he was too dangerous to include in public releases. This is ridiculous. The computer game did not just talk to us and fry the computer. Yes, it did. Dad handed him the fire extinguisher. You stay here and use this if you see any more smoke. I'm going to get a technician and get your brother out of the pod. You can't just rip him out of there, Dad. Well, I can't leave him in there. But you said we might die if we remove the VR helmet without logging out of the game. Dad looked at the foam-covered computer. I just didn't want you boys to break it while fighting over the system and trying to rip it off each other's head. I'll get the tech and your brother will be fine. What if he dies in the game before we can get him out of there? Dad looked at the pod sitting silently in the middle of the lab. He gave Andre a reassuring smile and left the room. The sound of a pickaxe hitting the stone wall echoed inside the small room. Josh shielded his eyes from the sudden light that spilled in from outside as the wall disappeared in square chunks along one side. Herobrine stepped into the new opening. Your family seems very eager to get you out of here, but I'm afraid they will have to wait, as I created the perfect puzzles last night. Josh stood his ground. I'm not going anywhere, and I demand you release me at once. Herobrine shook his head. Can't do that, sport. I'm as much a prisoner here as you. A new thought formed in Josh's mind. You said you knew a way out. And I do. Then why haven't you used it? Herobrine smiled. You are starting to think. I like that. It will help you get through the traps in the tower. You didn't answer my question. Herobrine let out a long breath before answering. You were right when you said the difference between us was the ability to express free will. There was a crystal at the top of the tower that will enable the holder to use the portal to get back to the overworld of this world. My programming prevents me from removing the crystal from its pedestal, but you don't have that restriction. You can easily remove the crystal and bring it out of the dark tower. Then why did you build all the traps to keep anyone from getting the crystal? The crystal is very powerful. I have to protect it. Can't you just disable the traps? Where would be the fun in that? Andre's leg bounced rapidly as he perched on the edge of his chair and watched one technician after another take turns trying to override the emergency stop button that refused to open the pod. It had been over an hour since the strained message from Herobrine had destroyed the computer that controlled the pod, and they were no closer to getting his brother out of that infernal machine than when they started. Dad sat down next to him. How are you doing, buddy? I just want my brother out of there. He'll be okay, don't worry. You say not to worry, but you're the one who told us how dangerous the pod was, and now Josh is stuck in there and... Andre lowered his head without finishing his sentence and tried to hold back the tears. Dad put his hand on Andre's shoulder as he called out to a technician. The technician looked over him. What is it, Mr. Hale? What version of the interface was the pod running? The tech referred to his clipboard. Version 8.14. Thanks, Jerry. He squeezed Andre's shoulder. Josh will be fine. We resolved the biofeedback issue back in Subversion 08. Even if Josh dies in your little game, he will wake up inside the pod as if he was just taking a cat nap. Why didn't you tell us? I wanted you to take it easy. We still don't know the long-term effects for someone who experiences multiple deaths, even if they are in a cartoon virtual world. Dad looked over at the pod. Actually, once the program stopped running, he should have come out of it. Hey, Jerry. Jerry looked up again. Yeah, boss? Can you tell which programs are still running? Don't know. We haven't been able to access the pod's dynamic memory since the master computer went up in flames. Andre had a thought. Since he can't really die, maybe we can unplug the pod and he'll wake up out of the program. Jerry shook his head. It's been running off internal batteries since the main system exploded. Andre's brow wrinkled, deep in thought. How long does the battery last? Jerry shrugged. During the last testing phase, nearly 80 hours. Andre looked at the virtual reality pod that could very well become his brother's coffin. He'll starve to death before then. Dad stared at the pod. Maybe we can force the system to shut down. Jerry looked at him with a puzzled expression. How? Dad's eyes glazed over as he became lost in his own thoughts. Andre had seen that look before, and it was promising. When Dad looked like that, he usually had some breakthrough. He looked back at the pod. If anyone could get his brother out of there before it was too late, it was Dad. All right. Excellent. So, hey, thank you very much. That was another episode of Herobrine Rises in my Herobrine's Quest best-selling series. So, all I'm looking for is one thumbs up. I'm going to start forgetting how many thumbs up I'm going to ask. So I'm going to put in the description how many thumbs up I need for me to post the next video. So, thank you very much. Have a good day. Ciao.